I don't approve of sports betting, folks. Which
We actually, in the state of Iowa, we sports betting wasn't legal here until I want to say 2020.
Well, it's just a way to the working class, and we will put in a suitable bleeped word afterwards. Hey, we are going to shift gears now after I made an ass of myself mixing up two football teams and showing that I'm little more than an old fart now, ready for what they call in England the knacker's yard, which is the glue factory. Hey, I'm going to read you part of a article that made a lot of noise recently. Eric with a H. I got a message from an
Yes.
Eric about doing a doing a entertainment report on Matt Connaughton show at 4:30. So I sent you a message. What do you mean you're going on live Matt Connaughton show? I've changed you to.
You scared me because I thought I booked something with Matt, and I'm like, and I forgot about it. I'm like, I actually was breaking out my phone and gonna message Matt on Facebook Messenger and say, am I on your show today at 4:30? And
Well, you can call in after 5. Okay, here we go. This is called Martin Scorsese, Rinse and Repeat Self-Indulgence. The director of Goodfellas has debased his talent by Sean Egan. Okay. In 1985, Martin Scorsese's career was at such a low ebb that he had to take the movie director equivalent of a menial job. Now, those days of the low budget, narrow horizon after hours are long forgotten. His position as one of history's all time greats is seemingly unassailable. No studio dares utter the word no to him. That itself is a canard. The result is a debasing of his talent. New Scorsese films are routinely an hour too long. The truth, though, is that his directorial talent has never been as great as occasional masterpieces like Goodfellas tricked us into believing it was. Here we go. I don't know how much of this you're going to be able to take. Perhaps we can forgive the gaucheries of Mean Streets on the grounds that it was Scorsese's first proper feature film. Not true. Boxcar Bertha was, which was made a year earlier. Even so, it's noticeable that it's not just overly episodic, but in places actively badly directed. Witness the contretemps in the pool hall. This is an English writer. Americans except me don't use the word contretemps. Witness the contretemps in the pool hall when Charlie and Johnny Boy push over Joey Scala's men to make their escape. Because it suits Scorsese's narrative convenience for them to not give chase, the hardened thugs stay on the floor like overturned tortoises. Not mentioning that they were all drunk. Taxi Driver made Scorsese's name in 1976, but lacks momentum. It lacks momentum or moral, relying for its gritty power on the shock value of Jodie Foster's child prostitute character and on it constituting by simple happenstance a snapshot of the Big Apple that then seemed on an unstoppable ride to dystopia. Okay, one more. I'm not going to read. Oh, here it goes. New York, New York is curiously soap opera like, if reasonably entertaining. I find it not entertaining at all. But this is it, and I'm not going to go much further than this. But 1980s Jake LaMotta biopic, Raging Bull, is quite simply across the board bad filmmaking. Can you put it on Eric's face? Bring Eric up. I'm going to reread that. 1980s Jake LaMotta biopic Raging Bull is quite simply across the board bad filmmaking, afflicted by preposterously exaggerated boxing action, an atmosphere flattening lack of a soundtrack. A lack of a soundtrack in a Scorsese movie. This guy is a genius with his soundtracks. Agonizingly repetitive dialogue, endless and tedious confrontationalism. This is about a working class bloke in 1940s New York. Of course, he's going to be confrontational. and irritatingly pointless black and white stock. The critical. Sorry, my eyes are watering, Eric. I have to open them up. The critical esteem in which this gruesome concoction is held is the definition of Emperor's New Clothes. I will not read any more of that. Eric?
I'm going to choose my words carefully.
Yeah, I
here.
know you don't like to use profanity, and
well, I can't on public access television. I would, in this case, I would do it. It's easier to seek forgiveness than permission type deal. I would repent tonight after Bible study.
needless to say, this critique of Scorsese did not go over well with filmmakers or critics, because Raging Bull is probably considered the best movie of the 1980s and one of the greatest masterpieces ever made. And I was there when it came out, and it was startling. But go ahead, Eric.
Should whoever wrote this vile, repulsive, repugnant, untrue piece of quote-unquote film analysis should never be allowed to talk about film again. One, to sit there and say the things he said about Raging Bull shows his ignorance, that he knows nothing about the people of New York.
Or of that era. That's the era he's making of his parents' generation. That was my parents' generation, and watching Raging Bull in 1980, I said, it's like Manchester, New Hampshire, the West Side. I mean, there's a certain universe. This is these are white people without any privileges that you had to fight your way, literally, out of the ethnic ghettos in America.
I would say that
with a pistol or your fists in the ring.
Yeah. I would say that was probably in any working class neighborhood from that era. And to sit there and diminish that, there are people that lived the Jake LaMotta story.
Oh, yes.
That have said how true it was. Jake LaMotta's wife, Vicky, at the premiere sat with Jake, and Jake asked her after the movie, said, "What, Vicky, was I really that bad?" And she goes, "No, you were worse."
Oh, yeah, because that was the movie, he actually slugs his wife, It was, when you were watching it, seeing it, Scorsese made film new. He took actors like De Niro and in his earlier films, Harvey Keitel, because Mean Streets is a masterpiece too. And it's complete crap what the guy said.
Mean Streets is, to me, the prototype of what
will come.
A street crime movie should be. It should be gritty. It should make you feel a little bit grimy watching it. And, I will say this, and he touched on this, and I am reviewing this film next month.
What film?
I do think Goodfellas, as great as it is overrated. I think Casino is a better film than Goodfellas.
I actually would agree with you, but that's not denying that Goodfellas is a great film. But Casino, which came so close to it, was underrated. But, there's a scene where this guy talk about a soundtrack. Scorsese, like when you're watching Casino, his soundtracks in his films. We got Boxcar Bertha was an exploitation film made for American International Pictures and Roger Corman. And I remember telling my first screenwriting teacher in California, I said, why is that so bad? And Mean Streets is a masterpiece. I mean, Pauline Kael, she just was knocked out by Mean Streets because nobody had seen stuff like that, like Johnny Boy, De Niro, and Keitel too. You know, this raw type of acting, equivalent to like when Brando bursts on the scene 20 years earlier in Streetcar Named Desire. And he says, "John, just making a movie gives you the experience to make a better movie." You know. Because, and it's true, but Mean Streets is the one scene where Charlie's drunk in the bar that the guy's talking about, and he's about to pass out, and there's this absurd late 1950s song called Rubber Duck. You know, one of these, you know, with rock and roll, you know, the silly lyrics, and Charlie, and Keitel is intense as De Niro, you know. And he's just passing out. And the camera is handheld, and it's following him. And then it falls to the floor with him. And he's just, you know, curling. Just see his face. I mean, it was like Jean-Luc Godard in his films for French, which when you watch them, they were more intellectual, but it's like making film new again.
Here, also, you know, one of the great scenes in Mean Streets is the climactic car chase scene.
And that big, beautiful blue Chrysler Imperial that belongs to the guy that's going to, you know, we won't say what's going to happen. We don't want to tell anybody that happens.
Just the brilliant use of camera work by Scorsese to use shaky camera to capture the franticness of this moment.
Right, and it's shot exactly where, like, The Godfather is, some of the scenes of The Godfather, but two different worlds completely. You know, because you do have Charlie, who's the Harvey Keitel character, who wants to be normal. His uncle is a don, not a don, but a capo, you know, like a captain in the mafia.
Yeah.
He wants to have his own restaurant, and but what a brilliant film. But talking, you know, this guy attacks the soundtracks. There's a scene in Casino. Nobody used soundtracks. And I even wrote about it on one of my Facebook pages, Manchester Movie Memories. Nobody used sound and soundtracks like Scorsese. It's when Ace, who's the character played by Robert De Niro, the gambler, is meeting the mafia. You know, to call the guy a mafia hitman is like saying that you know, Babe Ruth was a home run hitter. You know, he's meeting a guy that was known as the Animal in real life, the character, you know, a stone killer. And they're meeting in the desert because there's a beef between them. And this is a place where they take people, shoot them, and put them in a hole. And as you know, Ace is there, and you know, De Niro, who had that face that could, even when he's impassive, his face is impassive, he can just show so much, even with a pair of sunglasses. But that's also because of the brilliance of the cutting and everything. And the car is coming, and then it's cutting between him and his face. And you have the passion of St. Matthew Bach is on it. And then you have Toad Cream at the same time with Ginger Baker's this propulsive drumming, because it showed the wildness of the hitman coming, played by Joe Pesci, who really, you know, he takes his character in Goodfellas and takes it up a notch, where he really looks insane, you know.
Well, the interesting thing about Pesci's performance in Casino, is there are a lot of people, like the real life Frank Collada, that said Joe Pesci actually toned down Tony Spilotro, which is who Nicky Santoro was based off.
He was called the Ant, the FBI. All the FBI names of mafia guys are just made up, you know. They called him the Piss Ant, so then they called him the Ant. But he was really, you know, had different. This guy's an animal and stuff like that. You wouldn't call people like that anything to their face.
So one of my favorite nuances about Casino, real quick, is
we only have a couple more minutes.
When the end of Joe Pesci's of Nicky and his brother.
Oh, geez, that's
Joe Pesci's talking, and I didn't notice this until I purchased a 4K of Casino. When Joe Pesci's talking and he's like, it's all about the dollars and cents, it was still too hot for me to go out to Vegas. And he's talking right at the end when they hit him with the ball bat, the voiceover grunts. In the middle of the voiceover, he goes, ah! And then it's silent. That's filmmaking right there.
Right, because it's a character who's dead, and he's an omniscient narrator. But Scorsese had such cojones, such statistical fortitude. He did things other directors wouldn't dare to do. And like Coppola was was as great a director as America had, but Coppola's formalistic, Even with, Coppola being influenced by the French New Wave and everything, like Apocalypse Now, it's still reality, and everything has like a reality outside of it. Whereas Scorsese, this is a dead man that's been narrating his story. Hey, we got to go now. Let's talk about Casino next week if you're up for it.
I would love to come on and talk
One
Casino.
of my favorite movies.
I love Casino. It is just such an amazing film.
Okay, Eric, we got to go, and we will talk to you next week, okay? Thanks for being here.
Sounds like a plan, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, so I didn't have to drive myself into PTSD talking about politics. Well, I'm going to a match show now. We'll see what happens.
I could help.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay, folks, we're going to wrap up, and we will see you next week. Bye.